home sellers really freaking out in today's housing market? That's exactly what we will cover today by analyzing the most recent data that exists so that you can make the best decision for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. My name is Chris Igoe. If you're a returning viewer, I appreciate your participation in our journey. Now, today we're going to get right into the data. Now, full disclosure, before I get into that, I want to let you know that the MLS will not publish their data until next week. So anything that we see next week is going to be a month late. It will be a lagging indicator as to what's happening in the housing market. And I know there's a ton of content creators out there that do deep dive analysis of metro region data, of state region data, or excuse me, state level data and national housing market data. And while that's informative and it can be entertaining, and perhaps there is some benefit of economic value if you watch it, it's typically useless if you're thinking about buying or selling in a hyper local market. It's just far too big. It's far too big of an area. It's far too robust. It doesn't help you get into the nitty gritty of what's actually happening where it is you're thinking about buying or selling. So enough sales pitch for me. I'm going to go into the data right now and give you some context, because right now we're working with people just like you who found me on YouTube and hired me to help find their dream home and dream lifestyle in West Boca Raton, in the Lotus community. Now, this is resale in Lotus. This is not immediate occupancy. This is not new construction. This is resale in a very hyper local market. So I'm going to go do a deep dive analysis of what that market looks like, because the question is, are home sellers panicking? And I suspect that data will reveal whether they are or not, because what I say doesn't mean anything. What the data says tells us everything, and the numbers don't lie. The charts don't lie. Now, back in the day when I was a stockbroker, it was very helpful to get real-time information as to what's happening in terms of a stock that I might be trading. There would be 50-day moving averages, 200-day moving averages, technical support that I could look at to know when I needed to sell if something was going the wrong way. And the great thing about stocks is you can sell instantly, lock in your profit, and move on to the next thing, or sit in cash if you want to. Real estate does not work that way. And I'm not trying to pretend that a house is a stock, because it's not. But I do think it gives you some context as to what we're looking at right now, because the numbers that I'm looking at that I'm going to showcase with you are real time, or as close to real time as I can possibly share. So I hope you find benefit in this. And if there's anything we can ever do to help serve or support you at the highest level, please reach out. Now, despite what I just said about starting at a 5,000 foot overview, I'm going to get really granular here in a moment, but let's start with Palm Beach County. Let's start with $1 million homes and the inventory that exists in that price point. And what you're going to find is that right now there is 9.3 months of homes for sale that are $1 million or more in Palm Beach County. So it is an extreme buyer's market in that housing niche, in that space. So if you're a seller and you're thinking about selling $1 million home, and your opinion of value is that it's $1 million plus or more, you need to be aware that there's 9.5 months of inventory that you're competing with. And that's exactly what I've been talking about for the last 6 months, that if you're thinking about selling and you want to get in front of the competition, you need to do it immediately, because if you don't, you are going to be in a situation where the buyer has tons of choices and has all the leverage. And that well, actually, it's not 9.5, sorry, 9.3. It was 9.5 back in November. Well, all that goes to tell you is that if you're thinking about selling $1 million plus home, there's tons of competition, and you have to price it and market it the right way, or chances are you're not going to get what you want. But the buyers will, and they've got all the leverage. So you need to know that going in. And let's get more specific. Right now, I'm working with some clients that are looking for something new or newer. They're looking for something in a resort style community that has all the amenities so they can max out South Florida living to the fullest. They want access to a real tennis club And they don't want to pay the mandatory membership fees that go along with a golf or country club community. So they're looking at a very specific area that's located within West Boca and West Delray Beach that is new or newer construction. They want the best of the best. And regionally, if you're looking for a new home or newer home, chances are that's going to be in West Boca or West Delray because everything else has already been developed. The only land that's left to develop is in this western region. And there are lots of communities that have been built with this exact purpose in mind. These are incredibly nice homes, incredibly luxurious lifestyles, and that's what we're looking for right now. So I'll get more granular into the data, which brings me back to the title of this video, which is, are home sellers freaking out in today's market? And so the level of freaking out that a homeowner in this particular market is feeling will probably be contingent on their motivation and whatever financial concern it is that they might have. And full disclosure, many of the homeowners that exist in this hyper-local market, they have multiple homes. So it's not necessarily true that they're feeling economic pain, but they may have other pain that they are trying to address. But whatever that pain point is, or whatever that motivation is, only going to be revealed when we get into action and connect with them and build rapport and figure out what their motivation is and why they're selling. Which is why it's critical to work with a professional who can connect and build rapport at a very high level in order for you to get what you want. But let's get further into the data and see what it reveals. Before I get into the data that exists in this hyperlocal market, it's important to give a little bit of context here because we're working with buyers who found their dream home. And when I did a little bit more analysis into the particular home that they're looking at, and we're somewhat hesitant to come in with what looks like a low ball offer if you're only looking at the list price. But I knew there had to be something else going on when I got more information about this particular home. Now, full disclosure, this home is sick. It is gorgeous. It looks like a model home. They did almost every conceivable upgrade and improvement to the home, and they invested a lot of money into it. But that doesn't mean their list price supports where it's going to sell. And I had a feeling, based on the amount of time on the market, that there was something going on here that I needed to learn more about. Now, full disclosure, they started a year ago at close to $2.8 million, and it's been sitting on the market unsold for a year. I suspect that they had multiple offers over the course of that year that were much higher than what we were going to present to them. And frankly, they missed the market. They missed the opportunity to capitalize on what was happening in real time. And now they are certainly feeling some economic pressure and certainly freaking out a little bit because they know that to be true. But nonetheless, let's look into what the data reveals. But keep in mind, we're shopping in a hyperlocal market of Lotus. We want to know exactly what's happening in that hyperlocal market so that we can go out there and serve and support our client at the highest level. So let's see what those numbers yield. And then I'll go back to this story of our shoppers who are looking at this home, which was listed originally damn near $2.8 million. Before we get super granular, I want to give you a regional perspective of where we're shopping. And what you're going to see here is that we're in West Boca and West Delray, which is this circle that I'm making right here. And all of that is primarily new construction, primarily resort style communities. And so the buyers that are shopping in this market are looking for something premium. They're looking for something luxury. They're looking for something really nice. And that's what's found in this region in West Boca and West Delray. And this area is dominated by GL. So you've got Bridges, Seven Bridges, Lotus, Boca Bridges, and also a few others. But this is the area that we're shopping in. And as you can see, you got the Everglades to the left, you've got the ocean to the right. And if you're wondering how long it takes to get from out west to the east, depending on traffic, it can take you as little as 15 to 20 minutes. And if traffic's bad, well, it can be a heck of a lot worse. But I digress. So let's get into the nitty gritty and look at what the numbers yield. As I mentioned before, this is the most recent information. This is going to be more granular and more current than what's going to be reported next week. And what you'll see is there's a lot more homes for sale in this region, right? And there's a lot fewer sold. As you can see, there's 3,721 homes for sale in this geographic area that I just showcased on the map. And there were 696 sold. And so I suspect the question that you probably have is, what does that look like on a month over month and a year over year basis? So let's start with current versus previous month. Well, in January of 2023, there were 3,721 homes for sale, which was an increase of 1.5% over December of 2022. Sold were down 25%. 696 sales in January, 932 in December. Pended up 42, almost 43%, 1,154 in January, 809 in December. Now, if we go over the same period a year ago, well, for sales up 167.7%, sold is down 36%, and pended is down 15%. If we go even further back, current versus same quarter 1 year ago, well, it looks like we've got an increase of for sale of 167%, a decrease of 37.8% as far as sold is concerned, and pending home sales were down 26%. And I suspect that when the MLS publishes the data next week for January, they will confirm the trends that I just shared. What I suspect has more value to you is what's happening right now. What are today's stats? The current most recent stats are this. The beginning of this month till now, there are 3,679 homes for sale, which is down about 1%. And the amount of homes sold is down 12%. The amount of pending home sales is up 55.5%. And you're probably curious, where does that rank from a year ago? And what you will see is a confirmation of the trends that I've already discussed. For sales up 174%, sold is down 51%, and pended is down 11%. And if we go even further, we can analyze what it looks like right now versus the previous year to date. And the trend continues to be the same. The trend is not your friend if you're thinking about selling. And there's far less sales. For sales up 174%, sold is down 39%, and pended is down 14%. In an effort to keep this as brief as possible and provide you with the most benefit, I'm going to go to the next two stats that I think are most relevant, which is month supply of inventory and then average price versus sold. And in terms of inventory right now, if you remember, I started out this video by sharing what the $1 million home inventory looks like, which was 9.3 months of active inventory for sale. And in this hyper local market, it's not that high yet, but it's certainly on the uptick. So what you can see is we've gone from 3.9 months in December of month supply of homes for sale to 5.3 months. Now, full disclosure, that is still a neutral market technically, but we're trending into a buyer's market very quickly. And the particular home that I'm talking about, we have to keep in mind, has been sitting on the market for almost a year. And it's been price reduction after price reduction. So as I mentioned, they started at 2.75 and then they started dropping 2.29, 2.19, most recently 2.09. And yet, that's not where we came in with our offer. And you're probably wondering whether we got the contract accepted, which I'm not going to tell you until we get to the end and further analyze this data. Before I jump to price, I think it's important that you understand what the inventory looks like. And although we talked about 5.3 months, which is accurate, that's what it is. How does that compare to a year ago and then the same quarter of last year? Well, the months of inventory jumped 313%. That's a big number year over year. And from a quarterly perspective, it's similar, 292%, 4.6 months from 1.2. We are trending into a buyer's market. So if you're shopping for a home in this area, fantastic. If you're thinking about selling, no bueno. Now, bear in mind, the information that I just shared is a lagging indicator. Let's look at what the leading information tells us. And again, it's not exactly leading, it's still lagging, but it's this month's information so far. And what you see is so far in February, we're up 23%. We're trending to 7.5 months of inventory. So if you're shopping in this area, you've got all the leverage. And if you're thinking about selling in this area, you don't. So if you're thinking about selling, chances are you're starting to freak out because the month supply of inventory year over year jumped to 7.5 months versus 1.3 months, which is an extreme seller's market. And that increase is 460%. And year to date, it's up 345%. No bueno if you're thinking about selling. But the clients that I'm working with, they're not thinking about selling, they're buying. And this is great news for them. And here's what the MLS will confirm next week, which is a month old. And it looks great on paper because the average sold price increased 31% to 1.14 from 869. But if you look at the most current information, it tells a different story because February is different. Well, the numbers don't lie. And what we see is that the average sold price in this region dropped 19.4% so far this month. But the thing to focus on here is the big difference between the active price and the average sold price. And what you can see is the average active price is up 6.3%, and the average sold price is down 19.4%. Which brings me back to the original topic of this video, which is our home sellers panicking. And chances are, if they know what the numbers are, because the numbers don't lie, they're probably concerned at best. And if we go a little bit deeper, we can continue to look at what the trends reveal. And what you see is the average sales price dropped 8.3%. Relative to a year ago, same month. Average active for sale price was down 18.3%. Now, some of this may have to do with seasonality, but truthfully, each one of these homes for sale is going to be a case by case basis because the home sellers that are in this market, most of them have money. And if they're not in economic pain, chances are they're not going to be reality based. But the trend is not their friend. And what you can see, today's stats, current versus same month a year ago, is that the active price is down 18% and the average sold price is down 8%. And if we look at year to date, we get another picture, which tells us that the active price is down 18.3%, and yet the sold price is up 17.6% so far. But bear in mind, we're still in February and there's a whole lot of time left. And we haven't really even started to feel the economic pain that is certainly coming as recession worsens. Which brings me back to my buyers that are shopping and have found their dream home. Now, I cannot reveal and won't reveal how much of a discount we got on the home that they love. But we did get that home under contract. And the question remains, are home sellers panicking? And I can tell you that if you thought your home was going to sell at 2.75 and the market tells you that it's going to trade at a massive discount to that price, somewhere in the neighborhood of 40%, chances are you are freaking out. And if you're thinking about selling, I don't want you to freak out. I want you to give me a call because I will absolutely ensure that that doesn't happen. And if you're thinking about buying, please reach out because we can now negotiate the best deal possible, just like we did for this client. But it starts with knowing what the market is and working with someone who can build rapport in order to negotiate the best deal on your behalf. Now, I hope you found this content valuable. And if you did, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and check out my next video because I suspect you will love it a lot. And until next time, peace.